Hey everyone. Here to share some thoughts on the first 4 episodes of the Teal Swan documentary on Hulu, Into the Deep. I first heard of Teal Swan a few years ago. My hairdresser mentioned some of the wisdom he was gleaning from her videos, and so I filed that away, but hadn't revisited her personally. But when I saw that this documentary was being made, I was very curious to watch it. And the first episode pretty immediately launches into these questions of, is Teal Swan's organization a cult? And is Teal somehow responsible for the suicides of some of her followers? Both of these questions intrigued me, in part because I feel we're in such a time of light being shed on things that were previously in the shadows. So for example, the Me Too movement. It's like we all knew those dudes in power were real funky a lot of the time, but now we all know, right? There's no denying it. More recently, things like the John of God scandal, the Nexium scandal. And these are both situations where the outer circle often had very positive experiences. I've known people over the years that have traveled to Brazil and felt like they had healing from John of God, felt comforted by him. People in Nexium, going for these self-help workshops. And it wasn't until you got into this inner circle that things started to get real funky and a lot of mechanisms of control presented themselves, which, are classic cult behaviors. So I was just curious what this was all going to be about with Teal Swan. And the documentary, it's beautifully shot. And, I feel very aware that reality TV is very sensationalized. They're picking out very specific moments. Life is so much bigger than any reality TV show can convey. But after the first 4 episodes, Teal definitely doesn't look good. I have been on my own process of sort of spiritual discernment for a few years now. And so I found myself wanting to apply that to this documentary, like sort of, okay, so what am I seeing here that is sort of a yellow flag? What is a red flag? What are the things that just feel very human, perhaps? I think part of the light being shed on things previously in the shadows has been that, some people are pretty evil that we didn't realize, but also a lot of people in power are just very human. There's that too, and have made mistakes and have used their power in funky ways. I often throughout life come up with classes that I just wish like all high schoolers could take, and I was just thinking today that wouldn't it be great if high schoolers could take a class on how to use power in a wise way if you're ever to be in a position of power. And how to just be aware of power dynamics because they exist all the time. And as someone that works with people sort of in a holding space capacity, that was a huge part of my training. Is like, hey, whenever you're holding space and you're in the position to help someone and they're, coming to you for that, you always hold the position of power, so you have to use it very wisely. But it's a really challenging place to be in. Especially when things get tough and you're having a tough day, because we're all human. So just very aware of all of those things as watching the documentary, and aware that the documentary seems to be wanting to paint Teal in a negative light and wondering about all of the background around that, like what happened behind the scenes. Do they just think they're going to get more ratings if they make Teal look bad as opposed to just like a great person, right? Like all these questions. And I probably will never know the answer because that is a very personal thing to Teal and her close-knit group of people. Another piece of wisdom I've gleaned over the years is that for me, maybe this is just my wisdom, but in so many times in life, you can judge someone for something that they do. You can assume that they have one intention, but you never really know. Like there are just so many things in life that could be coming from so many different places within a person, and we're really the only person that can hold ourselves accountable. And so, yeah, I think about the book, The Four Agreements, and having no assumptions. And, there are times when it's harder to put that into practice, but it's come up for me so many times in life that, all I can do when I want to judge somebody else is maybe look at myself more deeply and see where I might be holding some of those same patterns, and choose to be more accountable with myself around the way that I want to show up in the world. And sometimes seeing the way that other people are showing up in the world in ways that I don't like or that I do like is a helpful guide to being, more myself in that. So another reason why this documentary was interesting to me is a few years ago, I went down to Peru to work at a plant medicine center doing a work trade. I was there for about 7 weeks, and there were some positive experiences, but there were a lot of negative experiences that didn't have to do with the medicine, but had to do with the people there. And I could have gone down just for a week and done some medicine and left, but I was really curious to just be in the presence of plant medicine, living in the jungle for a more extended period of time, and also to sort of understand what is this whole scene of everyone going to the jungle, doing plant medicine, what's the background there, what's the backstory? And there's a lot of centers doing this throughout South America. They're all quite different, I'm sure, different leadership, but my experience was that something was really off in the power dynamics when I was there, just the way that I was treated and spoken to in ways that I'm not used to being treated in my life. And I have my own business, I'm my own boss, I have a lot of independence. I'm not used to being bossed around in ways that feel disrespectful, which I'm grateful for. And I also recognize that some people might be more used to that, and that might not feel so different to them. But anyway, it didn't feel good to me, and I gave a lot of feedback after the fact that I tried to be really thoughtful in how I gave feedback, but essentially it came down to there's something coming from the top that is not right, and it's trickling down in ways that feel not at all what the center says it's about, which is about helping people, right? Helping them seek spiritual liberation and be happy and fulfilled in their lives. And what happened about a year after I left was that a gentleman that was there in a more long-term way, the way that I was, but also doing a lot of different plant medicines in a deep way, he ended up stabbing himself to death while he was there. And a lot of people came forward after that who had had different experiences of being and working at that center to say that that center is really messed up, and to name the man that ran that at the top as the reason why. And we created a forum to talk about it, and a lot of people had had way worse experiences than me. But it was just another situation of people coming to that center had wonderful experiences. I mean, not all, but a lot of them, right? I mean, they're doing deep healing work, and they're having a space held for them to do that. But all the people coming forward to say they had bad experiences were this more inner circle, right? And that was the question. That's the question that Teal Swan's documentary is holding: is this inner circle a cult or not?